Hello everyone and welcome back to another review, this time specifically for Future Connected, which is a epilogue to the original story of Xenoblade Chronicles that can be found only on the 2020 Definitive Edition version of the game for the Nintendo Switch. Now, as some of you may know, Xenoblade Chronicles on the Nintendo Wii is one of my favorite jRPGs of all time, and having completing both main line games, Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, I decided to explore the Future Connected epilogue content in anticipation of the release of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is very soon, and it's also on the Nintendo Switch. So before I jump into discussing Future Connected, I just want to say that if you haven't played the original Xenoblade Chronicles game, this is a perfect way to do it through the definitive version, since it introduces many enhancements to the visuals as well as quality of life improvements, new updated interfaces and whatnot. So I did a review of Xenoblade Chronicles some years back in my channel, so I will be linking that video in the description below if you guys want to check it out. Again, it's one of my favorite JRPGs of all time, so I really have a lot of appreciation for the Xenoblade Chronicles, the original one on the Wii, and also the new Nintendo 3DS. That was another release of the game. But now regarding Future Connected, I was actually excited to try it out, considering it expands a setting and a set of characters that I learned to love back in 2012 when I played the original game on the Nintendo Wii. Story-wise, the game takes place a year after the ending of Xenoblade Chronicles. As usual, I don't spoil story content on my channel, but I guess there could be minor reveals in terms of characters and settings you encounter. But then again, there shouldn't be any surprises, since Nintendo showed all of this in their trailers for this particular game and extra content. So at the start of the game, Shulk and Melia are investigating the floating, Bionic shoulder area in their flying ship. And this is when they get shot down by a mysterious laser beam coming from the Alchemoth region. They then learn that a mysterious creature known as the Fog King has taken over the reins of that area. So it's up to Shulk and Melia and two new Nopon party members to investigate and find out what's happening and how to stop this mysterious creature known as the Fog King. That's the gist of the story, but as far as my overall thoughts in the story department, I guess the best way I can describe the story is that it's weightless. Simply put, many potential questions and follow-ups from the original game that could have been addressed in this epilogue are not put to the test, and therefore the story is nowhere near as impactful as in the original game, and feels like an afterthought with a plot and characters that, in my opinion, don't add a whole lot to the overall lore and universe of the game. The story lacks the level of emotions, intricacies, and plots that were found in the original game. In a way, it's understandable. So, in the sense that this is a much shorter game, and it'd be unfair to expect the same level of quality from the original game, which is a full-fledged game that takes easily over 70-80 hours to complete. But nevertheless, I feel like the developers and writers have enough ammo to create a memorable epilogue, but in this case they did not. The characters in the game are a mixed bag. It's nice to see the returning characters such as Shulk and Princess Melia, as well as other NPCs, but the interactions between them is just not optimal. Not even in the heart-to-heart scenarios, which were created specifically to develop character bonds, but they are not very effective in this game, in my opinion, as they were in the original Xenoblade Chronicles. The two new characters are Nopon characters, and I don't know if it's just me getting older or if the writing for them was more than ever subpar, but there was plenty of cringe in the dialogues and development of the two new characters, and quite frankly, I've never been a fan of the Nopon humor and interpretation in the Xenoblade games, and the more I experience it, the less I like it. So Having two new characters that are Nopon just doubles or triples the cringe factor for me personally. So imagine how I felt during the cutscenes in the game, and more specifically in the heart-to-heart sequences that involve the Nopon characters. It's just weird how the regular, I guess, human characters like, Shulk, for example, they can have a serious conversation with the Nopons. It's just weird and just cringy, but at the same time cheesy and I don't know, just interesting how they interact with one another. Now moving on to the graphics, Future Connected looks great when compared to the original Xenoblade Chronicles, but inferior when compared to newer jRPGs that are contemporary for other series of games out there. At any rate, I'm basing my thoughts as a comparison to the original game, and in that sense, I can say that the game looks great, and the increase in quality in terms of textures, effects, and character models is a very welcome addition and a temptation to replay the original Xenoblade Chronicles game in this definitive edition for the Switch. Now, I know this is unrelated to Future Connected, but major bonus points from me for the intro of this game. It's back, it's the same, but with updated graphics, and gosh, I could listen and watch the Xenoblade Chronicles intro over and over and not get tired. So much epicness in there with the main theme by Yoko Shimomura. Just pure genius, and definitely one of my favorite intros of any video games. One of my all-time favorites for sure. Now the new area you explore, the Bionis shoulder, looks great. Features interesting environments that come to life thanks to the Switch performance upgrades. Just like in the original game, there are different, times of day, day and night cycles. So the graphics and effects are pretty cool to see in this, updated graphics, performance that the Switch version has. One final thought is that the animations can be on the weird end, especially Melia, for example, when she walks. There are some kind of like rough around the edges types of animations and physics in this game, but overall, graphically, I think the game is it's great. From a sound point of view, the game offers a lot of voice cutscenes, which are always welcome and feature, for the most part, decent writing. There is something a bit off sometimes in the quality of the sound of the voices, like the actual voice actor, they sound way too professional and crisp and kind of like a radio studio host type of quality that just feels weird when synced with the characters in the game. Like, there's just this crispness in the quality audio that it's just there's something off between the character and the quality of the voice actors. But other than that, soundtrack is fantastic. Major soundtrack points for this game with the beautiful tracks all along the Future Connected epilogue. Now, gameplay-wise, the game features a modified combat system from the original game. The chain link attacks have been removed, as well as Shulk's visions, which makes things a little bit more challenging. However, there are some new features for the combat system, such as the use of recruited Nopon surveyors that you can find scattered throughout the game. The more surveyors you recruit, the more powerful your kind of like super attacks become. Because the super attacks actually feature all the recruited Nopons working together. So I think the more you have, the more powerful the attacks are. And I believe you can recruit up to, I forgot if it was 12 or 16 total. But yeah, that's the max number of characters that you can have. And in my opinion, it's a nice motivation that was placed in the game for you to actually look for these characters and help them in order to have them join your party by performing side quests for them. And speaking of side quests, this game really abuses them, and unfortunately I feel like a big chunk of the overall 10 to 15 hours content that you will sink in the game are strictly side quests. To make matters worse, they are almost needed to level up and reach the final boss at a comfortable level that will allow you to defeat him. So it's in your best interest to complete as many as you can as you progress in the story. Personally, I ended up doing the majority of them, and unfortunately only a few were fun to perform in terms of adding more immersion and side stories to build the world of the game. Most of them are just collectathons and just defeat X enemy or X amount of enemies and things like that. So not a whole of them offer a whole lot of additions to the game. Other than that, you will find a lot of familiar gameplay features that return, such as vast exploration to get items, gaining experience points to level up your arts, unlocking more arts and selecting the preferred ones as shortcuts, and obviously trying to have a strategy a little bit to be able to perform nice high damage combos to the enemies by breaking their defenses, causing topple and daze effects on the enemies and whatnot. All in all, Future Connected does not hold a candle to the greatness of the original Xenoblade Chronicles, and in terms of overall thoughts, it's also vastly inferior to, say, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. With that being said, it's fairly short, ranging from 10 to 15 hours of gameplay time, and for me it was worth personally going back to the Bionis and just interacting with returning characters like Shulk and Melia. The story was unfortunately very disappointing, which hurts a little bit, especially when comes from a jRPG. You expect RPGs to have a grasping story, but unfortunately this game is very, very disappointing in that regard. However, the gameplay was solid, and it definitely increased my hype for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is coming soon to the Nintendo Switch. As usual, thanks for watching this video, and I will see you all later. Take care.